Today we're going to be talking about an issue that's been prevalent in, well, quite literally any video game ever, but specifically World of Warcraft, and that is the inability for new players to enter in. I myself am a new player. I started playing consistently about 2 months ago. Started at the back end of Dragonflight. I had before played a bit of Classic WoW, maybe to level 30, 40, about a year ago, and then did Season of Discovery when that came out. Got to about level 25. Did BFD and all that, and then got bored of it, so I stopped. And got into retail 2 months ago, and I have been loving it. But I think that there's a lot of experienced players who make all these videos and talk about World of Warcraft and the state of World of Warcraft, and I think they complain about things that are actually beneficial for new players. So this post that we're going to read through is from a man named Order of Chaos, titled, "The Vocal Side of WoW is the Worst Part of This Game." I cannot express this any clearer. As a new player, my least favorite part of World of Warcraft is how hellbent the vocal minority are at making everything in the game seem terrible. I went into WoW expecting a formulaic trash heap that would be fun for a month and get stale. That's what these people would have me believe. The people spouting hyper-analyzed garbage at the top of their lungs in videos titled, "Is the War Within Worth It?" and "Why I'm Quitting WoW." By the way, let's just get further into it. I expected to be forced into using over minimalist shitty UI because of how bloated with content this game would be. I expected a convoluted, terrible retcon story that I couldn't keep track of. I went into WoW expecting the most toxic, self-assessed, power-hungry people I've ever had the displeasure of meeting. I went into WoW expecting to hate it, which is a bit of a weird take, right? Like, who goes into a video game expecting to hate it? That's odd. Because if we're saying he bought War Within, like you see he dropped, what, $40, $45 on this? It's an odd take to go into the game, I'm just saying. But what I will say in his defense, like, I agree. Like, obviously, if I'm researching a new video game, I'm going to look at, is the War Within worth it? And I think too many times these videos are not geared towards new players. They're geared towards, is it worth it to come back in from an existing player standpoint? And I think they don't separate the two. And that's why it seems so negative. And you're like, well, I'm not going to start playing then. Because it's not geared towards you. It's geared towards the people who stopped playing last expansion and are saying, hey, is it better this time or is it the same as it was last time? But they're, like, I still think it's weird to go into the game thinking it's going to be, shit or expecting to hate it. What was I met with? I was met with pure immersion. From the get-go, you are drawn into this world with two phenomenal cinematics, amazing art direction, and superb voice acting. I agree, because I've never played a game that had, like, to the scale of this, the cinematics and the art and the voice acting. I think that is super cool. Now, look, I'm in it for the game, not the story, so nowadays I'll skip the cinematics, but at the beginning, I think it's super cool to see the cinematics and to see the art and just how far and incredible the visuals have become, right? Like, I think it's a really enticing point of the game. I think it's cool that you can just skip it if you want to, because it's not for everybody. But I will say that is a cool way to start the game. The controls were simple to understand and grew on itself continuously, allowing me to feel my power fantasy creep into view. Obviously, one of the most crucial pieces of any video game is being able to play the game. That's why I don't give you all your level 70 abilities right when you start at level 1, because it'd be impossible for new players to pick up, right? It's cool to look through your talents, look through your current abilities, and say, oh, this is what this does, this is what this does, this is what it does. You start with 3 or whatever it is, and then you grow on that. You replace certain ones when you get better abilities, but you also you get to learn why certain abilities work in certain situations and why to use this over that. So, yeah, like, no shit. That is a positive. I'm playing Sub-Rogue, something I was told was the least fun, boring, button-bloated shithole of a class, and I was having a blast. Again, I'll give him credit. A lot of buttons on that fuck. The character creation was engaging enough without being so complex it took 4 hours. The races are distinct and have the option to unlock more by playing the game, not paying extra, which was awesome. Agreed. I mean, that's a good thing. We're not giving Blizzard more money. I think maybe it takes too long to unlock certain characters. Like, I did the the other orc race, the Magdathar. It probably took me an hour, and it was a lot. But I also think that is a way to get you, especially new players or players that have skipped over parts of content, to go and explore stuff they haven't explored before. I think that's a good thing. As I continue to level, I proceed to get more and more add-ons, but not LVUI or weak auras, but camera add-ons and UI add-ons that make the world more immersive and RPG-like. I think add-ons are arguably one of the most controversial aspects to at least going on right now. I am pro add-on. As a new player, I would probably have quit if I did not have weak auras. When I was playing classic, like stuff like Baganon was perfect. I think also it's a really cool part of the game because I've come from games where that was never an option. You couldn't customize your UI to make it look how you want it. You couldn't make your UI unique. You just had the same stack UI everyone else had. And so having that in was super cool for me. And being able to customize my own UI to how I want and doing trial and error and saying this sucks, this is good, I'm going to take this part from this person's UI, take this into mine, add this here, I think is awesome for the game. I spent hours going through CurseForge, just scrolling through the most downloaded add-ons and seeing what would work, and experimenting and adding new ones on, getting rid of old ones. I think that is super cool. So I'm pro add-ons. Especially things like weak auras. I know that might be controversial for, the hardcore rating. I think stuff like Akili can take away from learning your character. But I also don't know why that's an issue for, if you don't want to use it, don't use it, right? So I don't understand why that's an issue. I think it's totally fine for new players to use add-ons that make your entrance into the game easier and faster. And I think that's what a lot of these add-ons do. The dragon riding is absolutely astounding and breathtaking. Again, I started in Dragonflight, so I have nothing to compare it to. It's cool. The characters are funny and unique. I specifically remember walking through a town of walrus people on a glacier. I was RP walking and noticed a large pot. Seems like a lot of RP stuff. I'm not a big RP guy. He seems to appreciate the world more than I do, which is, again, to each his own, right? I don't know as much. I don't know why that's... I don't have that same allure, right? And that's fair, right? But I think I'm coming from these other AAA games where, no one plays World of Warcraft for the graphics. The graphics are inherently shitty. I don't know. I hate to be the one to break it to the World of Warcraft community, but the graphics are poor. That's. Have you played Elden Ring? You played these other games with these incredible graphics. I don't think that's that much of a hot take. Now, this is my only MMO, so maybe this is just how it's done. Maybe it's the art style choice. And there is a lot going on in WoW. So I'm not judging the game. I'm still playing the game, and I love it. But I've never walked around and looked out at the landscape and been like, oh, wow, this is such a beautiful, view. But that's just my take. As I continue to level, I've discovered some of the coolest cosmetics for transmogs and mounts, some recolors, but these allow me to seek out new combos from my different color transmog sets I plan to get and allow for more diversity. I agree. Transmogs are awesome. I think it is crazy that they were not in vanilla, but I think it's crazy they're not in classic. It's wild to me. The whole point of the game, especially this guy, take this guy for example. He wants to be immersed. He wants to be the character. But you also don't want to get one shot by a mob when you're trying to quest. So you want to have the most powerful gear on, but then you look like a fucking idiot, right? So it's crazy to me that you couldn't customize that before. When I started playing retail, every time I get a new piece of gear, I would go in transmog. It was so cool, and it was free for me to do too. Cost 0 gold, so I would do it literally every time I got a new piece of gear. I would go and be like, oh, so I have this new blue helmet, and I've had a red gear on. Do I have any cool blue gear to fit my new helmet, kind of thing? I think that is super awesome. I've gone and done old raids trying to get a lot of this cool looking gear. I've yet to reach in-game content, but the dungeons, delves, and raids look insanely cool and unique, and I'm completely open to having these overly minimal UI. I don't know why he keeps calling them overly minimal UI and weak auras. To clear harder content. Why? Because first off, you don't need that stuff, right? unless this guy is planning on doing crazy high key mythic level stuff, I think, like, if you're just doing normal raids, I don't think you need anything. I don't think you need any sort of weak aura. I don't think you need the raid, guide, the what is it, whatever it's called, the dungeon and raid, pop-ups. But I also think it's super helpful. Like, when I was doing Dragonflight, I just wanted to get my gear going into War Within. So I spammed stuff like LFR, which I think is awesome. I know there are negative takes on that, and I can see the downside. But for me, I was nervous to go and raid. It's nerve-wracking. Like, it is intimidating. I remember I had a bad experience doing BFD on SOD. On Season of Discovery, I got a random looking for group, and I'm like, sure, I would, all my WoW heads, all my BIS items are on this raid. So I'm going to go do it. I didn't watch any of the videos. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that was something I needed to have done. I thought it was like doing every other dungeon. Because I've never had to look up a video for a dungeon, and I don't think anyone has. Because they're dungeons. Right? On a normal playthrough. It's not hard. And I didn't know, as a rogue, I was supposed to be interrupting the last boss. And once I got teleported to the nether looking thing, I didn't know I had to kill the ads to get back. So I wiped my squad twice, and they were furious at me. So I get it. It is definitely overwhelming. But I think LFR solves that. Because there's very little you could do to wipe your raid in an LFR. There's very little ways. You could even die in an LFR. If you have a general sense of your character and can visually shoot out damage and see the floor below you. I don't find that difficult. Like, you don't need to have an extensive knowledge of all the abilities. If you have a circle around you that's red and it's fiery, odds are it's going to explode at some point, so maybe I move out of the way of other people. Like, once you learn one style, there's only a certain amount of things the bosses do. Now, it's cool, they're all different mechanics and stuff, but the reality is they tend to have very similar effects to the group. And if you're playing LFR and normal, you don't need an expertise. You can play without your weak auras, and if you want to use weak auras like me, then who cares? It only helps me. I'm here to build my character and get stronger, so that's why I'm raiding. It's crazy that someone would be like, you should not use that. Like, that's, who cares? Like, I'm not a hardcore WoW player. I'm casual. So that's why, so this is my take on that, right? From that perspective. And I'm not discounting the people who don't play with that. I think that's totally fair too. All right. Yeah, his point was that he can turn them off and switch to the immersive ones whenever he wants, which, yeah, super cool. I can play the game. The community has been accepting and said GG after every single dungeon I've done. Again, I've had especially on Dragonflight, with the looking for group, 95% of the time, no one even types in the chat. Like, if you're doing looking for group and it's, you're doing, as long as you're not doing, mythic, certain higher keys, it's very easy, right? And it's very quick. You're in and out in 10 minutes. I've not had any bad experiences doing that, which is kind of what I expect. I was scared to do the dungeons at first, especially looking for group, because I was scared that was going to happen. And then the reality is, a lot of the players are in the same situation as you are, which I think is something I didn't take into account, and something a lot of people don't take into account, especially new players. All right, my only complaint I've had is I was in a guild, and I was egoed really hard with passive-aggressive comments when asking questions about the game as a new player. See, there are going to be assholes. It's just that's how life works, right? It's not a WoW problem. It's not an MMO problem. It's not a video game problem. It is a world problem, right? Across every religion, every race, every nation, everyone's got assholes. That's the reality, right? So in a way, this guy making this post about two assholes is not helping, in my opinion. But I agree that is clearly a deterrent for new players. If I'm in a guild, and look, let's be realistic here. This guy's new to the game. Now, he wrote this post, so he clearly is intelligent, and he knows what he's doing, and he's got good thoughts. You know, he's got a good thought process, and he's making, like, it's a well-written post. He's a smart guy, right? I'm sure he uses Wowhead. I'm sure he knows how to find guilds. But I would wager he just got a random guild invite with a generic message, and he joined. You just got to leave that guild, dude. Because the reality is like, right now in any of my guilds, like, the majority of guilds are going to be nice new players. Now, if you're asking stupid ass shit, yeah, there's a point where you're like, dude, you have Google, figure it out. But he doesn't strike me as the guy asking stupid ass questions in guild chat. Because I was new and I was nervous to type anything in the group chat, in the guild chat. But then you stay in long enough and you see some of these messages people are talking about, and you're like, these guys are 30-year-old fucking, they're chill. They're just fucking around. They're talking about their fucking taxes. Like, you should be, it's crazy every day logging in and you're just all of a sudden looking over and seeing what they're talking about in guild chat. Anyway, buddy, it's not difficult. Just go, look, find yourself a new guild. They advertise right here. Looking for social and love-linking, large, press search. We're a group of mostly IRL friends who play a wide variety of games. We're a social group who raids Sunday nights, does Mythic Plus. Maybe that's not for you. Just looking to have fun at the moment, but might build groups for raids later. Seem pretty nice. See? Looking for players of all ages for friendly and welcoming guild. Friendly and welcoming guild. New players encouraged. It's all right here for you. So that's not, that shouldn't be, you know, an issue. Anyways, this player is the vocal minority. The reason you hate the game isn't because there's nothing to love in it, it's because you love nothing in it. I think that is incredibly well said. It's not because there's nothing to love in it, it's because you love nothing in it. You've seen every village, every NPC, every dungeon, and now the only time you find it fun is when the grind is fresh and the people around you are as miserable as you are. I think there's a lot of older players who've been playing since the start of World of Warcraft who have negative takes on these new seasons. I agree. It's fun for 2 months, then they quit and they just talk shit. But I think that's not at all a representation of how a new player should approach the game. You know, there's all this legacy content is still in the game for you. You can still go back and play fucking vanilla if you wanted to. It's there. It's still in the game. So, a lot of these old players talk shit about the game's state of where it's at now, saying it's bad. I don't... Now, look, you're right. I wasn't there when the game came out. I wasn't playing the game even 10 years ago. But I've seen how video games grow over time. The quality of game, as long as the game keeps going, gets better. I think too many of these older players are confusing their nostalgia for a time in their life as good game versus bad game. All their friends are now have kids. All their friends are not playing World of Warcraft anymore. And they're still here. And they're going, this is a shit game, this is shit, this is not good, this is why this isn't fun. Because they want to go back to that time where they were nostalgic playing in their mother's basement. The problem is, that is never going to happen. That time's gone, right? And that's the reality. You're never getting that time back. And I think they get angry at seeing the new players feel that way. They're happy, they're young, they're like, this is so much fun, there's so much to do, look at all this gear I'm getting, look at all this, my eye level keeps going up. And they're like, oh, bitch, well, you should have seen it. You like this? You fucking idiot, you like this? This is dog shit. You should have seen it when I was a kid. You know, that kind of shit. And I think that is crazy. I think it is bitter and wild. Again, though, it is the minority. This has not been my experience in World of Warcraft. I think if you're a new player trying to get into World of Warcraft, there is never a better time. There's so many catch-up mechanics. There's so many ways to get involved. It's so easy to find a community. All of these guilds that we're looking for, they all have Discords. Within 30 seconds of effort, you could now be in a voice chat with 30 other random people and making friends. And that's the beauty of World of Warcraft. You can't do that in League of Legends. You can't do that in Call of Duty. You can't do that in any other game that is not an MMORPG like this. And I think that's the beauty of it. But coming with the social aspect, there will be negative players. There will be negative takes. There will be negative assholes that try to break your spirit. Fuck them. They're old. They don't know what they're talking about. Get into the game and enjoy yourself. Load in Hakili in your weak auras and send it into a Mythic +5 dungeon because who cares? It's a video game. If they get mad at you, they're the ones who accepted you in their group in the first place. Or you're the key owner. There's no downside, in my opinion. And if they're being mean, leave them. It's not frowned. If someone's being an asshole, it's not frowned upon to leave the instance. It might be a little bit bitchy, sure. But if they're being assholes, who cares? You're their only tank and they're flaming you for fucking up a pole? Fine. Find a new tank. That's how this works. Anyways, that's my rant from a new player talking about entering World of Warcraft. So, agree with me, disagree. Doesn't really matter. All right. Y'all have a great day.